Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to have you here with us in London. Maybe for people who aren't familiar with the games and don't know anything about Fallout, can you set the scene for us a little bit when they start watching the show?
Yeah, it's the end of the world, and things have not gone very well. But I think for me, the tone of these games is what we were trying to hold on to, because they're so dark, so violent, but also so funny and weird. I'd never experienced anything like them, and I hope the audience feels the same way.
And of course, you're no stranger to adaptations with The Dark Knight and also world building with Westworld. But this is a whole other beast again. What excited you most, and where did you even begin?
I think trying to capture the scope of these worlds. What's so beautiful about the games is the worlds that Todd and Bethesda build are so big and so immersive. If you can see a building, you can get into it. If you see a mountain, you can climb over it. And at the same time, every little detail of the world, every item you can pick up, every book on every desk you can open and read. It's just an extraordinary sort of scope, and the epic and the personal all at once. We try to bring that feeling to the series as well.
And of course, as you mentioned, I think the tone is what makes it very unique. And you're kind of taking this sci-fi genre, which can often be quite self-serious, and injecting so much dark comedy into it. I think I was reading, maybe even a comparison, to The Favourite in terms of a genre mashup. So what do you think is so key about that? And I guess like injecting something different into something.
I think if you're dealing with the end of the world, it has been nice to be able to approach it with a sense of humor. And again, that's the tone we took from the games. I'd never really experienced anything that was political and satirical and deeply weird and gonzo all in one breath. So I'm hopeful the audience enjoys it as much as we did.
And in terms of the look and feel, I guess a lot of sci-fi stuff can feel a bit intangible, and you've sort of managed to do the opposite with that. And I guess that's just going in and building those sets instead of using a green screen all the time. Tell us a bit about how you made this world feel so real.
For sure. I mean, I think what was immediately apparent to us was you're not going to beat Bethesda when it comes to making beautiful computer graphics, right? So the games are beautiful. Our secret weapon, or not so secret weapon, was reality. That was the thing that we felt like we could bring to this. So instead of giving all our money over to the VisFX team, and we have a terrific VisFX team, but we packed an overnight bag and went down to Namibia and went out to the Western Salt Flats of Utah and tried to shoot it to make it feel real, so that when the actors are there, you feel the real emotional response to it. I think, look, we have a terrific cast. They could have made it work in front of green screen, but we made sure they didn't have to.
And you have assembled an incredible cast, obviously hinging so much on Ella's performance as Lucy, but also Aaron and Kyle and Walton, as we have right here. So what was so special about this cast?
It's always my favorite part of every project, is you've talked about these characters in the abstract, and then you start figuring out who you're going to work with, and they come in and take the characters away, and just this extra dimension in that moment that is so exciting. And some actors who I'd long wanted to work with, like Walt and Kyle, and some actors who I'd never worked with before, like Ella and Aaron, who are just extraordinary. We got so lucky.
And finally, in terms of what people can take away, I mean, it is obviously this wild ride to go on in terms of the absurdity and the epic nature of it. But also you can reflect, I guess, on the have and the have-nots element to it. The privilege of those in the vaults and those on the wasteland. So perhaps there's some reflections on today's society too.
Very much. I mean, I think, we're in a bit of a strange moment in terms of what's happening in the world today. But I think one of the things that I find so exciting about these games, and hopefully the series, is that though they are about the end of the world, there is this odd thread of optimism that runs through both the games and hopefully the series in terms of the possibilities for the world that they might be able to build next. I think from the beginning we knew that we wanted to create that feeling of really being there, the way that games make you feel like you're in this world and you could walk around any corner and you could lift any rock or pick up any object. And I think, though in a series the audience can't take control of the camera and point it where they want, we wanted to give them that feeling of tangible, real world. We did these vast vault sets. I mean, to me, it's kind of a maximalist way to do it, but I think the only approach to make the audience feel the reality of something is to make it as real as possible. So we did. I think the biggest challenge for me was comedy, which is something that I hadn't worked on before. I was most excited, but also most apprehensive about it. And I think that was one of the biggest joys for me working on this, was the opportunity to kind of set the script aside in some moments and work with these amazingly talented comic actors and let them take the material and just play. We find ourselves in Namibia on the Skeleton Coast with the sun going down, with some brilliant comedians trying out different materials in the few moments of light we have left. Just an amazing experience. When I work on things, there's not necessarily a message that we want to impart. I don't feel like I have any answers, especially given how confusing and frightening the world feels sometimes, especially these days. But I think if we can get people, first and foremost, we can entertain people. But to the degree that they're taking anything further beyond that, maybe asking some questions. One of the questions here is, do you really want to live in a world without civilization? As much as it's wish fulfillment, I think, civilization's awfully nice. I think part of it is a bit of a glitch in human behavior. We are biased towards negative news because if you ignore good news, it may not matter. If you ignore bad news, it might kill you. So as a species, we tend to focus on the negative. But I think it's with an eye towards avoiding bad outcomes. I think the reason why we spend so much time looking at really bad outcomes is I think as a way of figuring out how we can avoid those things collectively, kind of dreaming together about how we stay out of trouble. There's also a bit of escapism in there. Living in a world without rules maybe sounds appealing when you're dealing with so many rules in a given day. But no, I think it's largely to keep ourselves out of trouble. Absolutely. The decision early on with Geneva and Graham was a challenge of, okay, these games are open world games and they're role-playing games. You can take your character and steer them in any, you can make them look how you want, you can point their moral compass in any direction you want. Conveying that feeling in a series where, of course, you don't have that option. Geneva and Graham came in, one of their first ideas was to make this an ensemble, which I thought was brilliant. So you have three main points of view. You have Ella's character Lucy, who is the quintessential vault dweller from the games, the most familiar character from the games, and she is idealistic and wide-eyed and maybe a little naive, and it's really from her perspective that we're going to encounter this world outside. She's going to have to adapt to what she thought she was going to find, which is maybe a handful of orphans that she was going to teach the national anthem to the discovery that it's a world that has moved on without her, without the rest of the world. It's very alive, very filled with its own culture and its own conflict. Then you have Aaron's character Max, He's part of the Brotherhood of Steel. This is one of the factions in the games you can join if you want to. So you get a chance to see what we like coming up that way, growing up on the surface, growing up in these harrowing conditions and trying to find an organization that might just keep you alive and trying to figure out if you share the same values. And then, of course, you have Walton's character, Nicole, and Cooper Howard. He's really playing two characters across the span of time. And that, one of the most exciting things for me, one of the things, and one of the most exciting things for Todd, was the ability in the series to explore the world before a little bit more, which you've seen glimpses of in the games, but we really get to set up shop and spend some time there. So that was one of the first things we sort of talked about, was how to bring the power armor to life, how to bring vast scale the Brotherhood and their various machines and machinations to life. We had a lot of fun. I think I have to take my copy of Fallout 4. I'm still not done with it yet. Fallout 3 I completed, but Fallout 4 I still have a few side quests to do. Well, I'm hopeful that what we've done as fans of the series is faithfully recreate the tone of the games. I mean, what's cool about these games is they're open world. So, your version of playing it, Fallout, any of the Fallout games, will be very different than my version. So you can't do a quote-unquote faithful adaptation. You have to be faithful to the tone and the spirit of the games. And I'm hoping that we've done it. I'm excited for people to see what we're calling the honeymoon scene, which is after Lucy gets married in the pilot. Things don't quite go the way you're expecting. It was an amazing scene to shoot with Ella, and I'm excited to see what the audience thinks of it.